Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we have a little Seahawks Cardinals instant reaction to the Thursday night game. Seahawks get the win. Not terribly exciting game, but there's a few stories to talk about from it. But actually, before we get into this, Jeff, I wanted to do a little quick Zeke talk. I know we've gone over it many times, but he's now officially suspended. He could appeal again, but the hearing is going to be December 1st. So at minimum, he misses 4 games. So have you come around on this? Are you still thinking McFadden can take over the backfield?
I'm kind of guessing like anyone else is. I know that Morris is supposed to be the lead back right away, but I like McFadden more. It kind of makes sense why they would kind of hold him back. He's their insurance policy. So I'm gonna kind of grasp at straws in the dark here. I would go McFadden. I grabbed him in a bunch of leagues. I think the bigger picture is Elliott with the suspension kind of looming for so long is now kind of not that he cares about fantasy football, but kind of screwed over his fantasy owners because now it might dip into the playoffs, which I think didn't that happen to you? Are you a Zeke owner?
Yes, I am. And now if everything holds, the 6-game suspension holds like it should, he won't be back till week 16, which would be our championship. So I have to somehow get to the championship before I could use him again. But if the 4 games happens and he somehow wins the next hearing, whatever, he could be back week? Would that be week 14? So I guess that's my only hope there for if you can get Zeke back and matter. But at this point, it's pretty much I think he's gone for his 6 games, and I'm still going to lean Morris actually on this though. Shoot, it's probably going to be Rod Smith actually. Who knows? Might just be a 3-headed backfield.
Yeah, exactly. It could be. I don't know. I'm banking on the 2 years ago kind of thing. It easily could be any 3 of them really, but I don't know. You're thinking Morris is going to be the guy to go for fantasy points. Is that pure production, or is that you just think he's going to get the most carries and all 3 of them are pretty similar?
Probably the most carries, and it's going to be more of a split, and Smith is going to even get some work. There's not going to be one person dominating, so it might just not be as productive fantasy-wise as you would hope. It's kind of where I see it going, but I guess we'll find out Sunday. I'm very interested to find out how that's going to go. But might as well get into the Seahawks-Cardinals game here. I guess there's a couple, Russell Wilson does his thing. Another solid game, which he gets 23.4 standard points, with 6-point touchdowns. So the only difference is he only had 19 rushing yards. If he gets his 80 rushing yards like last week, he's up there at the 30-point mark. That's the difference with Wilson week to week, if he gets rushing yards or not. But how about Jimmy Graham? Did you see that? 6 catches, only 27 yards, but he's the red zone target, 2 touchdowns. That's really good to see from Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, that's great, and that's what they brought him in for. So, 27 yards leaves a little something to be desired, especially with 6 catches. But, 2 touchdowns, especially coming from Wilson after he's been kind of spreading the ball around a bit. So, yeah, once again, I guess we always have Graham in the top 5. But, the touchdown-dependent guys, he could easily jump up. It would be nice to have him down the stretch here.
And then Doug Baldwin gets 5 for 95. Most of those yards off just one ridiculous play from Wilson. He ended up a jump ball to Baldwin, somehow catches it and goes for 50-some yards. So that's where the majority of the yards came from there. Richardson only got 1 catch, but it was a nice deep one for 43 yards. And Lockett only 1 for 16. So those were always the worries with those 2 guys. They're going to have some good weeks, but if Seattle's not throwing the ball for 400 yards, they might struggle. And then the run game continues to struggle. Just avoid. I got too many people wanted Rawls this week with Lacey out, but it doesn't matter who's out and who's not. Just avoid that backfield. Would you even roster these guys at this point?
No, I wouldn't. They just haven't been productive even when they get the carries. And, Rawls got 10. And really, for that backfield, that's quite a few carries in one game, the way things have been panning out. they're just spreading the ball around so much. So, I think Wilson is probably their most productive runner. And other than that, 3, 5, and 10 is how they split out the rushing attempts with the other 3 running backs. So there's not a whole lot there. You would have to really have your back up against the wall in order to, take a chance on one of them.
Yep, and then Procise hurt his ankle again. So that's that's not happening. I thought Procise might have been the best back there, but guy can't stay healthy, so you'll never get to know if he is or not. So he's just kind of forget about all those guys. All right, how about the Arizona side here? Adrian Peterson, 21 carries, which he had about 18 at halftime. 21 carries, only 29 yards. So, are you worried about this? Because I know you do have Peterson in the league. Are you worried about this a lot, or is this just a product you think of Seattle defense?
I mean, definitely I'm worried about it. I mean, I do have Peterson in a couple of them. I mean, I started him above other people that obviously I was wrong about this week, or I thought I guess I value Peterson more. And the whole thing was I know he's going to get a lot of carries. What I didn't expect is this bad of a performance. I mean, and I think this kind of leads into, is Stanton going to change the way that the Cardinals kind of perform their offense? And obviously it didn't affect Fitzgerald at all, really. And even Gresham. So that part really didn't change. But what did change was the running game was just abysmal. And I guess I'm a little confused because now we have 3 games. 2 of them, all 3, he's gotten quite a few carries. 2 of them he was absolutely terrible in as far as yardage, and 1 he was great in. So, you look at those numbers and, I'm kind of leaning towards going back to the position of not trusting him. I know he's going to get a lot of work, but I could probably find someone else that can do a little bit better with, 10 carries compared to his 20-some. I mean, I don't know. And he lost a fumble. Ellington got the vulture of a touchdown at the very end. The whole thing is just very, very uneasy. I don't know. What do you take away from the AP thing? This is the most confusing part of the game, I think.
To me, it's basically if they play a bad defense, I think he's going to be okay. But if they play a defense that's any good at all, he is going to struggle because they're not going to respect Drew Stanton even slightly. So let's see. Next week they have Houston. I think he can do well against Houston. But then they have Jacksonville in week 12. He's not going to have a good game. I mean, I can already see that you're not going to start him week 12 because Jacksonville's going to shut down Drew Stanton completely. They don't even have to worry about it. So Peterson's going to have nowhere to go. They're just going to concern themselves with stopping him. And then the Rams in week 13, I can see them kind of shutting him down too. So, it's going to be a game-by-game basis, really. Plays a bad defense, he can do fine. But like the Jacksonville matchup, he's going to have – you're not starting the guy. I think that's where he's just very matchup dependent right now. And you like the volume, though. I mean, anytime you get 20 carries from a guy, you want that. But it's just 20 carries with like 10 guys in the box.
I know. I just assumed if he got that many carries, he would be somewhat productive. I mean, even the week before he got just an amazing amount of carries, and he didn't get in the end zone, but he got over 100 yards. Good game. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why he struggled. Do you think that he would at least break one off?
Yeah, it's not bad strategy. When you know a guy's going to get 20 plus carries, you're going to start him. So anybody that's down on themselves for starting Peterson, I don't think they should. I think that's the way you should set your lineups. And he's been good, he's been productive, and he's getting 20 some carries in the game. And I told somebody I expected him. He's going to probably get about 25 carries, maybe 70, 75 yards, kind of a thing. Maybe get a touchdown. That's kind of how I expected. I didn't expect a great rushing game. Maybe I was only looking for like 3 yards a carry, but here you get 1 yard per carry. So I don't know. I think it was still a good decision if you started him, but it just didn't work out this week. What can you do?
I appreciate you trying to make me feel better on that one. I was just saying, I do have to point out though. I mean, Drew Stanton kind of passed expectations for me. I realized only 1 touchdown, but 273 yards. I mean, he did all right. The past 2 games, he has 18 points fantasy wise. Against Seattle, 17, which, Seattle's a pretty decent defense. Going against Houston, you think AP will have a good game. Is Stanton someone you could look at in order to kind of fill in a need if your QB situation is dire?
I don't think so, because most of them just came later on, and this is a game where I feel like they can get out ahead or keep it close and keep the run game going. So maybe like if you're absolutely desperate it'd have to be a game where you know they're going to be behind where you just throw the ball a lot. I can't trust it. I just can't trust him. Nah. He's missing too many throws, and just at the end when the defense isn't playing, the same kind of defense, then he can hit the guys. He can hit Fitzgerald, who come 10 catches for 113 yards, most of it in the fourth quarter, but yeah, I can't trust Stan at all.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's the other question. Stan did have 47 attempts, way more than I thought he was going to have. Obviously, he needed to in order to try to catch up there at the end. Not like it was a high-scoring game by any means, 22-16. But Fitzgerald did fare very well, like you said, 10 for 113. But what you just said about Stanton, does this mean that are you falling back on Fitzgerald as well? Do you think he is kind of in danger of losing that, top 3 wide receiver spot on your team?
I think he's still going to be playable. I'm not as excited about him anymore, but the only thing I like about this is I feel like Stanton only is looking at Fitzgerald right now. That's pretty much it. He looks at Fitzgerald, and obviously if you look at Gresham at 5 catches, which shows to me that Stanton probably doesn't feel very comfortable, and he's looking for those safety options, those safety valves, which is Fitzgerald, and it's going to be the tight end. That's 15 of those 15 catches to Fitzgerald and Gresham. So he is looking for the safe option. So that can save Fitzgerald. The only problem is I don't feel like the touchdowns are going to be there. So it's PPR, he's going to be, I think, safe, pretty solid yet. Standard, I'd worry a little bit more, where you might just get 70, 80-yard games kind of a thing, which is still fine. You can deal with that, but I don't expect any big games from Fitzgerald right now. So he's not going to he's more of a wide receiver 3, borderline, back-end wide receiver 2 kind of level right now for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where I have him too. I'm thinking more wide receiver 3, but how many, I guess, depending on what your situation's like. But I don't know. I do have to say he was kind of the bright spot when it came to it. Stan wasn't bad, but Fitzgerald was the only thing that really stood out to me. And like you said, though, a lot late. But at the same time, maybe they'll have a little more confidence in Stanton throwing the ball early now that they saw he had a little bit of success, and he didn't turn the ball over either, which is obviously a huge, huge plus in one of the early games taken over for Palmer.
Well, I think that's going to do it. I don't really have anything else for this one. So
no, yeah, that game was pretty straightforward.
Pretty much, pretty much what you thought was going to happen did, except Peterson you knew he wasn't going to do well, but you just thought his not doing well would be 70 yards. So that's the only difference.
Yeah, 70 and a touchdown. That would have been nice.
All right, we'll be back Sunday night, talk about the Week 10 games. We'll talk to you guys then.